repercussion, or so those that are listening and don't know what we're talking about, we had a player that inadvertently started a ball.
Hmm.
So you play somebody else's ball, the penalty for that, even if you're able to trap the ball and let the player continue, you know, that person whose ball you launched is at a disadvantage. So the way you play that is the player who is impacted, they have the option of continuing to play that ball, or they could drop it and play another ball. But in addition to that, the player who inadvertently played the ball, they're disqualified from that game, so they get a score of 0. They come in fourth place. So the player at the time was in last place by a lot,
Right.
and we I think we were all hoping, okay, this person is going to play. They'll
By
have
a lot. That
yeah,
wasn't.
by a
Yeah,
lot.
that was
And we said the
insane.
person's going to come in fourth place anyway, so we're not going to push the issue. But the player just had the ball of their life,
Literally the
and
ball of their life. Like,
it
that good.
Mm-hmm.
and ended up in first place in the game. And I'm like, hey, look, I hate to break this to you. And the person was upset, and rightfully so, because I did not step up at the time and handle the issue. So I won't have that problem ever again because I've experienced that.
Yeah, I want to say he came close to, if not breaking, the free play arcade record. That one ball. That's how
Yeah.
good that ball was. It was incredible, and it was just like watching, the avalanche start at the top of the mountain with a snowball and just.
Yeah.
Man, that's a hard thing, but that's one of those things where I have been on both sides of that probably more than once
Mhm.
at this point, and it's just like, you just know when to blame but yourself.
Oh yeah,
Especially
as
if
the
you're
person
capable
who,
of
like,
playing.
you are as the player, it's your fault. Like, and
Yeah,
I've had that
nothing to
issue both sides as well.
Yeah. It's embarrassing on both sides because, when it's you doing it, you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that."
Hmm.
And you're upset, but you're also like, "Oh, like I feel bad about it." And then when you're on the receiving end, you're also like, "Oh my God, I don't want to do this, but I have to tell you, like, you just played my ball and we have to go through all this." And it's just awkward, but that's why I
Right.
don't envy your position, and I'm also really glad that we had you running it because that's not a super fun job, but you killed it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you hate to be in that position to throw out a rule in a fun yet competitive environment
Right.
that can piss somebody off. And
For sure.
what we strive for with the Free Play Pinball League is fun first, competitiveness second. I've spoken with people that have said, "Oh, that's great and all that you're doing a league, but I don't want to show up and have to play for 6 out of 8 weeks. Why don't you just do more three-strike tournaments?" And
I mean,
uh,
I will.
well,
Like, those are there.
we'll do them, but this is probably not for you if you
Mhm.
don't want to show up and hang out and play pinball 6 out of 8 weeks in 2 months.
Yeah, or if you just want to show up, if you're not gonna, be in the playoffs or whatever, but if you just want to show up, 2 or 3 weeks, that's
I
it's
thought that
fine.
was
It's
one of the
not
coolest parts
buying
about your
in.
league is, like, you could just show up and play in the league, and if you're
Yeah,
not, if it means you're not going to qualify, well, you're not going to qualify, but it's okay.
past a certain point, you're kind of messing up the scores, and we're gonna
Yeah,
probably tell you to not play in the actual league. But you don't have if you don't want to. It's not a firm. You just stop going.
yeah, that's the part that is a little weird where we had people that showed up in like weeks 5 and 6 and said, "Hey, can I play?" And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins it, And it was actually, it was Brennan. Brennan wanted to bring
Mhm.
some pros
Mhm.
in and to beat
Yeah.
some of the other
I'm trying to
players. And
sabotage.
That's the
so,
Brennan I know.
Yeah.
so anyone,
I'm always
anyways.
looking for that edge. I'm always looking for that.
So yeah.
That's your
Oh,
natural.
you got the good photo of me.
There we go.
Nice.
Is
Took
that
a
is
while.
that
Sorry about the delay there.
is that quarantine?
That is yeah. The Pimpadelic in full effect there.
Fantastic. It grows quickly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we were prepping Chris and I to just really explode season 2, coming off TPF. And
I've got the cards. I'll be right back. They're in the car. I'll be right back.
yeah,
You
I
guys
need
keep
to
going.
buy those cards from you. Yeah,
So
had
y'all had some stuff
cards
in the
printed
works?
up that we were gonna pass out, and just got kicked in the midsection there with
Yes,
having to
it
cancel
did.
it.
Well, and that's the thing too, because I don't know. I may be in the minority, or it may be sort of a silent majority. But like I said earlier, there's, before all this happened, and when we're sort of in season, there is something going on, almost every weekend in terms of, Texas Pinball League and on DFW Pinball League and all this other stuff, and tournaments out in people's houses, and for a lot of people that is their jam, and they're at every one of those, and they're making all of the ones that they can make, and I try to make a few of them every time, but I'm not that committed, but mostly because it's I work during the week, and not like I imagine almost everyone does, and then during my weekends I like to kind of relax. I'm a homebody, and so driving out, sometimes an hour plus to go to somebody's house. I'm there like all day, and then I got to drive an hour back, and that's never been high on my priority list. And so this was such a good balance between playing competitive pinball, so I'm not just messing around at free play, which is something I could do anytime. We're playing for scores and points and all that, but I'm also not there all day. It's just a once a week commitment for like 90 minutes tops. Everybody's there mostly just to have a good time. It's not super sweaty and involved, and people aren't like going nuts and slamming the machines and stuff like that. So it just struck such a perfect balance for me personally between wanting to compete, but also fun being sort of the priority.
Right. Yeah, I mean especially that was for me I can't, when I tell my wife that I'm going to play in a pinball league for 3 weekends out of the month, man, I get some looks from her.
Well, yeah, and I imagine, and that's another thing, is that I don't have that constraint. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I just I have Amber, and she would go with me to those things anyways. It's just that I don't want to. I just, as much as I love pinball, and I've had this conversation with a lot of different people, and as much as I love pinball, I don't want to spend all day playing pinball, if that makes sense. It's just at a certain point, if nothing else, my mind gets so like burned out. I just get like mentally fried, because I'm so like locked in and focused, and it's sort of exhausting, and so I certainly don't dislike it. I don't hate it, because I play in a few every season, but it's not my priority. And so this was such the perfect like zen balance between fun, timeliness, and competition.
And I spoke with people at DFW Pinball League, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm not trying to compete. And I think there's room for both, and it's a different type of league than what you're running already, and I'll probably still play in both and all that stuff." And so there was just positive agreement from both of us that there was, we're not being competitive with each other, and we're just different flavors of pinball, and really trying to get broaden the audience. And then that's something we've been able to do. We have people that were, Chris got a lot of the fight game players playing in the leagues and things like that. So that was just really cool. And it's all about the community, I think, is kind of was the surprising.
Sorry that took so long.
benefit.
I had to walk
That's all
through a different live stream at the exact same time, so that held me down. Also, I did find the this little bad boy.
There
The,
she is. There's the old
Yeah.
girl.
The Pinball Monday Championship trophy is
Wish there was
safe
a way
and
to
sound.
drink beer out of it.
I mean, there is a little hole in there, but I don't think it would be
When
very
you win a trophy that
You
big,
need a
wanna
really
drink beer
small
out of it.
funnel,
Yes.
and then a really skinny
incredibly
straw.
tiny. Can't even find where it is on here. think there is like a small, because it is hollow for sure. It's not as heavy as it looks. It looks like a giant cannonball. There it is.
Yeah, that weighs like a pound.
Yeah. If that, yeah, it's super light.
We
But
can make it work.
yeah, this is the cards that we made, and I felt like this is basically the only time I'll get to show it off. But it was really excellent art that Josh Featherstone made.
Yeah.
Very
that's
cool.
There it is. And then on the back, and this is why we can't really give it away, it's got all of the dates that it was going to be. So all the information that you needed for the Free Play Pinball League Season 2. And we're going to give them all out of TPF. It's, this was a tragic story really quickly because, you know, here are the dates. May 30th through 21st. And
March
30th through May 21st. And it was ready to go for TPF. We were a few weeks from TPF when all the bad news hit. And I had gotten word to, like, not do anything, like, frivolous at that point. So I knew that we weren't going to have, you know, we weren't going to have, like, a big ad budget. But I didn't care, you know. When you're just a TO, when you care more about the league than you do about like the professional obligations of the league, and you know David's doing this for free, and everybody else who's involved, it's not me as an employee was doing it for free. Like I was happy to pony up the money to actually like print these myself, and then by the time I got them, we were closed. So it was kind of heartbreaking, but you know I do have some beautiful cards because of it.
Collector's items.
Mm-hmm.
The value just went way up on those beds.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, if we can
Auction
turn the
off on eBay?
the free play pinball league into like the biggest thing since the NFL, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're set for life.
Mm-hmm.
next year when we win the Pinball League of the Year.
Yes.
Were there
So,
any
Brendan-
sort of? Okay, what's?
Who has the current high score on Iron Man?
So right now, that question has a caveat. So
All
Iron
I'm
Man
hearing
came
is
out-
not Brennan.
well, it actually is technically, but the last time Iron Man got an update was 2014, and sort of really strangely, and I'm pretty sure they're about to start remaking these. It got an update like 2 weeks ago, which was really nice timing for just sort of the state of affairs. And so today I updated it to its current code, which wipes all the high scores. And so I have the number 4 high score on there, and that currently is as high as it goes. So I don't have grand champion or anything, but I'm at least on the board. I played a couple games earlier with the new code, so technically it's me, but I don't want to brag on it too much because it's not that great.
So technically, you guys had to start over.
Technically, yes, it wiped all the scores,
All right.
so nothing
Get
to
it,
brag
Amber.
about. But yeah, it's definitely there for the taking.
A very important question in the chat for our 4 pinball pros. Can one of you beat Sean Crane's score on Space Cadet?
You know what? Screw that game. Really. That is the worst pinball table.
That is
Clearly.
not the
Ever.
worst. There are worse.
Monsters.
Believe it or not, there are worse.
Well, it's the worst weekly or monthly pinball table ever. There.
Wonder if anybody's ever tried to like physically. I haven't looked at it at the playfield hard enough to see if it's like one of those that has like physical impossibilities or anything like that. But I wonder if anyone has ever tried to recreate Space Cadet, even on like a mini scale.
I believe someone has, but I don't have. I have heard rumors of it being done. I have not seen it. So Andy is saying
Andy's-
someone had tried but failed, and which is what I've heard. And when you look at that table and you think about how it might work in reality, I think it's like a double long table. So making a shot like go from the bottom of the table all the way to the top seems like the most impossible thing.
I'll give it a shot. What's the current height? Does anybody know? Ballpark?
It's around 10 million.
1.5 billion.
Is that good?
That's what it felt like.
I don't know if that's good or not.
I mean, it's enough to lead so far.
All right.
It's a
We'll
lot.
see what I can do. I got a little
I
bit of free
haven't-
time on my hands, so we'll see.
Yeah,
A
no,
little bit,
I
huh?
hear you there.
I haven't played it.
Not even like the original, like on Windows, whatever, 95. You know what we're talking
Oh.
about, right, David?
Maybe.
The one that came preloaded,
Yeah, so if you don't know,
old PCs.
the monthly competition is 3D Space Cadet or 3D Pinball Space Cadet, a Windows pack-in game from yesteryear. It is free. Corey posted a link. We can't actually play pinball because we don't have access to the pinball machines. So we did the next, or maybe the thing after the next best thing, and included the Windows 95 pinball game, Space Cadet.
I may have. I don't think I've ever played that game. Yes,
I bet
I'm
you
that bad.
if you do a Google image search for Space Cadet Pinball, I bet you at least it is probably
I'll put it on
the
here.
most famous pinball game.
No, I'm looking at it.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that I don't think I've played that.
You're missing out on a true classic.
You are.
No.
It's the best thing ever.
No, actually, though, it's not.
It's not the worst. It is not the worst.
Well, so the ball was like disappearing randomly, and
it will occasionally go through your flipper.
oh, that's awesome.
You
So,
probably
yeah.
don't have a good enough computer to run it. It's like it takes
I was doing it on my work computer.
like at
You got
least like a
DOS?
1080. Like it's.
I mean, I have Windows 10, you know, so
Now you're gonna have to upgrade to this bad boy.
I need to upgrade to 95. Right, 10 is less
Right.
than
Yeah,
95.
yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
On
If you
it.
need engineering help, we can send Austin over there.
I mean,
Sweet.
general the last computer I bought was a Commodore 64. So
Yeah.
That's
Nope.
The last
gotta
computer
upgrade.
you've owned?
no, just kidding.
Oh God. I was like, dude, wait, what?
So, speaking of video pinball, has that been on anyone else's agenda past few weeks?
So
I'm
I have
playing
been
right now.
missing pinball like crazy. I assume most of you are. And I miss you guys, and I miss the league and Pinball Monday and everything. So I more often than not, when I get an hour to kill on the stream, including today, I will fire up
I saw that.
the Pinball Arcade. I don't know. Do you four have any experience with video game pinball whatsoever?
Well, I play FX3.
Mhm.
That's the one I prefer because I like the tournaments. I like that you can, if your friends play, their scores are up there. You can set up tournaments with your friends, all that stuff. And I don't mind the gameplay of it. I played Pinball Arcade this past weekend, and it played okay. It's just I don't like the game in general as much as I like FX3. The way they have it set up and how long it takes to get to each pack, and I don't know. But the gameplay seemed fine though.
So there's
And I
your
remember
top
I
score on
had
Space
said
Cadet, a little under 10 million.
Didn't really like Pinball Arcade, but then I remembered that I only played it on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I didn't like Pinball Arcade as much as FX3 when I said it before, but the gameplay was fine.
Austin, David, have you guys ever played a video pinball game?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the Space Cadet Pinball. Back in the day on '95. I mean, at the time that it came out, I was working at a shop. I was scripting software loads, so I was loading that image on hundreds, if not thousands, of computers a day, and we would play it to test all kinds of stuff, just because it was fun. I mean, but I've been doing the embedded games on systems. I mean, you can go back to Gorilla.basic if for those of you who've been around long enough
I
to.
love that game.
It's one of the most awesome games of all time.
It really
But the
is.
cool thing about it is, like, yeah, you can really make it run on any system. Now, I haven't played it since it was on Windows 95. I didn't try porting it over to any other. But that's the cool thing about Windows. It's almost always backwards compatible.
Yeah, if you want to play a game reminiscent of Gorillas on Basic, play Worms. I don't know if you played that.
I played that too. There were 3 core programs that were basic example files. The Worms, the Gorillas, and I can't remember if it was snakes or whatever. There were a few different ones. But yeah, they were put into DOS 5.0 and above.
Yeah, there's a Team 17 started producing a turn-based game. I mean, it's basically like a updated version of Gorillas, where they even have banana bombs that you can throw
Nice.
as a throwback to that. So
Nice.
very, very, very good game, Worms.
We have a new one for the Switch. It's great. It's worth your money.
But you know, back to video game pinball. David, have you played any?
No.
No.
I'm a loser.
So, Austin, have you played Pinball FX3 or any of that series?
The last time I played video pinball, it was probably, and I'm not making fun here, it's probably like circa 1998. So it's been a while.
No worries.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have much reason to play it normally until, you know, they lock me away from all the pinball machines, which is kind of what's happened. Hey, let me
Yep.
see if I can toss it
Well,
up
when I
here.
first got into pinball, I was I had a young child, like really young, so I couldn't go to free play all the time, and it was all the way in Richardson, and I lived in Denton. So I did. That's what I did. Was I started playing video pinball when I couldn't play regular pinball, and it helped a lot. It helped with the rules and the gameplay and kind of learning how tables work. It's a lot of fun.
So I actually don't like Pinball FX3, which is the one Shannon plays now. And the reason is all about the camera. The camera doesn't show the back part of the table. There's nothing you can do to make it show the back part of the table. The camera also follows the ball around the table.
No, see, you can change that.
I can change it, but all of them still involve some effects where the ball is following. Like when it goes to the top part of the table, it kind of like tracks to the top. When it goes to the bottom, it
View
tracks to the bottom.
number 2 does not at all.
But
It doesn't move.
I disliked it enough to delete it off my PS4. Like that's how much I did not like Pinball FX3.
And you were playing the Williams reproductions, right? Not just their own goofy ones.
Right. I had some stuff that got ported over from the previous title. So
Okay.
I had a bunch of tables for FX3. It just like the layout was so poor that I couldn't deal with it. Well, it wasn't just that. Like in a world by itself, you know what? It probably would have been okay. But I also have this game on my machine, which is the Pinball Arcade, not Stern Pinball Arcade, which I heard is a sequel or something. But
I don't know. It was,
Yeah, it's a separate thing entirely.
Yes. So I have
but
no
it
thoughts
looked
on
like
that
it
game.
had the same table.
Yeah.
But I have it up on screen right now, and I have Attack from Mars, and this thing is lovingly crafted. Like, I see the full pinball table, I see the marquees and everything, the cards. Like, somebody really put a lot of work into this. The physics are not real physics because it's a video game and not pinball.
Yeah.
But the
It's a
code,
1995 table too. That's the original.
exactly.
Yes.
And-
Yeah.
The code is spot on. So while the shots are all fantasy and the ball doesn't spin, and I have, I get to experience it just how Shannon does because it's not in 3D. There is no depth. I still get to play pinball. And I'm awarded a lock. I'm playing. It has all the sounds and stuff. It's a pretty accurate representation of the table with the fantasy physics that are not at all pinball. So if you go into it expecting like this is going to be pinball, you're going to drive yourself nuts. But just to get to taste the sights and the sounds and I don't know, the rules of the pinball table, they did a great job, and I just have to compliment the makers of this game on their accuracy of porting over the look and the rule set. Like it just, you can tell somebody really loved pinball that made this. It's not arcade. Like it's not pinball. And if you go into it thinking this is a substitute for pinball, it'll drive you nuts. But you know, we don't have anything. I don't have access to a table, so I am pretty happy with what they give me here. There's even some flourishes, like if I take down the saucer section shield and I quickly shoot the ball up to it, it actually gets caught on the saucer section like it does in a real game. So you can even hit start and call attendant when the ball gets stuck.
Yeah, yeah. I've, I swear I've said this about multiple tables, about multiple people, about programs, stuff like that. But I, in many ways, fell in love with pinball because the Pinball Arcade, specifically.
Really, that game?
Yeah, because I guess it was 2.5 years ago or so, like October, November, my dad got his first table. I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I was looking into video arcade, and I had an Xbox and downloaded it and started playing it, and Amber started playing it. We started having, friendly competitions. I was like, this is awesome. Where can we play this in real life? And specifically, we were like Medieval Madness, because I think it comes for free. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think it comes free on without you having to buy it, because some of those you do have to buy. And so like, this is, I started looking up stuff on Pinside. I'm like, oh my god, there's a whole like pinball universe of people who are obsessed with pinball, and like there's rules and history, and like this is actually kind of fascinating. Where can I find this? Oh, this game everywhere. This is one of the most popular games of all time. Like, where can I play this place called Free Play has this? And it really opened up a can of worms that never shut itself, and here we are now. But that really got me started, because it taught me about rules. To some extent, it taught me basic stuff like ball control and trapping the ball.
Yeah, trapping is a thing. Dead flipping is a thing.
It's
Soft
not-
catching is a thing.
Not a substitute,
No.
but it's a good push in the right. And that's why I think I said this last week too. But it's not, if you're already into pinball and you've never played video arcade or video pinball, you're probably going to quickly bored.
Yeah,
But
it's gonna drive you nuts.
If it's the other way around, and you at the very least unfamiliar with the real thing, and you're starting with the video version, you might find it a little bit enthralling in the fact, number one, you don't have to go to the arcade, which you can't do right now, and number two, you're able to learn the rules by yourself. There's nobody waiting behind you. You can screw up as many times as you want, and
It tells you all the
pretty
rules of the
forgiving
table.
exactly
You can read
tells
all
you
about
the
it.
rules.
Is there, Shannon?
I
Do you
have
have
no-
something like clicking or?
I'm
we're-
playing pinball.
Ah,
Sorry.
we're picking that up. That's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the one thing about video pinball is the ability to learn rules and learn how to play a game. That's a benefit. Especially if you that's the reason why Brennan probably won season 1 of the Free Play Pinball League, is that he knows the rules from playing Pinball Arcade.
Well,
It's
and at
gotta
this
be
point, he knows from Arcade too.
No, it's just from playing Pinball Arcade.
That's true. That too.
I had the Guardians of the Galaxy one on Pinball Arcade.
So this game is called the Pinball Arcade, and you guys had asked me in the pre-show meeting what games I have for it, or what tables I have for it. Bride of Pinbot, Circus Voltaire, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Funhouse, Gorgar. I'm just sort of hitting the highlights that I know. Medieval Madness, Monster Bash, Scared Stiff, Star Trek The Next Generation, Theater of Magic, Twilight Zone, Attack from Mars, Black Hole, Black Knight. Like,
You
it's
have a
got
bunch.
a ton of tables that are really good. Like they clearly scan the art, and it looks like the table. It's not. It's not real. It's emulating the table, but like they do a really good job of bringing that feel. Like, that looks like a snapshot of Twilight Zone pinball table, and it plays the music exactly like you would. And it's unfortunate, and General is pointing it out, that like these tables aren't even available anymore because they've lost the rights to it. So I don't know what compelled me. I think I was over at the at my ex's place and couldn't play pinball, and I was starting to fall in love with it at Free Play. So much like Brennan, I wanted to kind of look at the rules and stuff. So I downloaded all the tables I could get, and voila, there it was.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was kind of a shame because I'd spent a decent amount of money on Pinball Arcade, and I still have them available.
And Slap Save,
take them away.
Sorry, Slap Save was in the chat saying that FX3 has the rights to those now. I mentioned that before, but I tried FX3, and I just deleted it off the machine today. It's not the physics that get me. The physics are just they both the pinball machine, sorry, the Pinball Arcade and FX3 have the same level of physics in my mind, which is it's not real. So neither of them like really mean anything to me. But the camera angle drives me absolutely insane in FX3 to the point where I just didn't feel like, with the Pinball Arcade game available to me, it was just not worth it at all. So I deleted it off my machine. That's how lowly I thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to play competitively at all, then Pinball Arcade's fine. I like the tournaments on FX3.
How does it work?
Give you something. So there's different kinds of tournaments. You have a classic, just a classic tournament, which is 3 balls. No, because they have power-ups in this game. Like you can rewind your ball so many seconds.
David, is that like real arcade? Just
I
rewind
wish.
time?
I'd be way better, you know?
Yes, Baldur Gates, I'm aware that I can change the camera angle, and all of them I found infuriatingly bad. So there's my review. I hated it, and I deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes,
But yeah,
you have multiple camera angles. Not one of them good.
Some of these tournaments have quite a few people in them. So
And Brennan,
this one
I didn't mean to cut you
tournament
off.
has 2,000 players in it. It's there's a Medieval Madness tournament. You only get to play 1 ball, and the high score is 1.6 billion.
On Medieval Madness.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's not.
Just shoot the center, kind of like Attack from Mars. That's what you did. Just shoot up the middle.
That's what I do. I just like drool on myself and just. But yeah, I felt a little bit like that was so disappointing because it was sort of right at the height of my sort of getting into pinball and sort of the height of romance, and I was buying all these tables and had a lot that I wanted to buy at some point later too, because I wasn't like exactly flush with cash at the time. And then they're like, "Oh, we lost the rights to Williams games. Like, you cannot buy these anymore after this date." And so, I don't know. It's kind of disappointing. And not that I can't play anymore, like I said, but
I'm disappointed that I can't like have anybody new discover this game while they're in lockdown and join me on the friends list because I can't obtain this game. Like I literally got exposed to both of them at the same time, the Pinball Arcade and FX3, and it was just like, whoa, one of these is better than the other, and it's the old one.
That's one more people are familiar with. Either way, you know what I always think is interesting is the amount of money that, and I can't say personally I have a super strong opinion about this because I've never played one in person. I've seen a couple at TPF before, but the ones where people will build their custom cabinets to play virtual pinball, and some of them are more in depth than others. They'll put actual like gyroscopes in them so you can tilt the ball and the table actually reacts and stuff. But I just can't imagine. From what I understand, you can do it fairly cheaply if you wanted to, like less than $1,000. If you want to sort of just do a basic version, but some of the setups that I've seen, can go like up to like $2,000 or $3,000, and for that amount, you could buy a pretty decent like actual pinball machine. And so, even though it's in a cabinet and it's on a giant TV, like that doesn't necessarily make it pinball. And so I personally just don't understand. Barring something I'm not thinking of, why you would do that.
I don't either. Like
because
Well, I guess
because it won't break.
right there you go.
There
You
is
don't
that.
have to.
There's no maintenance involved. So, like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm not thinking of, but
Well, you know
Well,
what?
I
You know
mean,
what?
you can
Man.
do a really nice job on those. If you've never seen one built up, I mean, I know you have, but maybe for the audience, if you've never seen a virtual pin that's been built up, customized, and done really well, as you were calling out there, you're using an actual cabinet, right? So you've got a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the look and feel. It does give a much better feel of the real gravity, and I've seen one outfitted at a very high end level, probably to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000 that someone did that they created themselves. Nice 42-inch or 43-inch screen, 256 games on it, and the way that it integrates it, I mean, you get the look and feel of all 256 games. And again, if it's done really well by someone who knows how to do it, it's actually pretty cool. Now, the fact that you miss all that kinesthetic feel, which I think is again what everyone is attracted to, right? When we talk about pinball, if you take that away, everything else is just not even close. And
Yeah.
so I definitely I hear what you're saying, right? I mean, everything else is not close, but I do think that's probably the closest you could get. And if you're really wanting it, if you're really a fan and you're pressed for space, I mean, you could have a worse experience than playing from a cabinet that's
Check the
virtualized,
lore, right?
getting maybe 80% of the elements in play, and have 256 tables on one if it's done really well.
Yeah, it's really down to that equation of, do you want one, maybe two, if you have the space and the money of the real thing, or do you want 250 plus versions of the virtual thing? You know what I mean? And so that I don't know why I didn't mention that. That is obviously the biggest draw, is that you can play, just about every game you can think of virtually without obviously having to have the physical cabinet. But my thing,
The idea
and
of
the
homebrew
reason-
tables is interesting.
Yeah, and that I haven't even delved into that at all. I don't know what that scene looks like, and that's
Either. Yeah.
probably
Well,
be a whole segment on its own.
I'll give you a reference for it. I mean, look no further than a pinball machine that's talked about frequently on this podcast, Total Nuclear Annihilation. I mean, you can literally build that. I mean, you can buy all of the stuff available and you can build it. Scott Denisi has all the code for it. He's got reference for everything he's used. I actually mentioned it on one of the previous podcasts. But if you're looking at what is really a fine example of a homebrew, look no further than Total Nuclear Annihilation.
Well, but you mean actually like making a table, or you mean like a video game version, a hybrid version?
No, I mean you can follow his exact build
Mhm.
if you wanted to. You could buy all this stuff from Multimorphic because that's what he used as a component. So P3 Multimorphic for all the hardware. And if you wanted to put your money into creating a cabinet for yourself, obviously you can still buy one, from Spooky too. But if you wanted to literally take his design and do what he did, I mean you could do the exact same thing. That's pretty much what homebrew places are doing now, and a lot of the places like Spooky are using the P3 Multimorphic as a base for their system. So you're just taking what a company in Austin has created and putting your own code on it. That's kind of the homebrew system of the future, if you will. And then you've also got a lot of production companies that are using that as the base as well.
I guess
I
I don't quite follow you. Are you talking about like?
He's about a physical table.
Yeah, physical.
Yeah, I'm talking
table.
about
Okay.
physical tape homebrew.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. In the way I was referencing homebrew, it's more like how someone like Ian in the chat might be able to program an entire fantasy table within the confines of a video game, like one of these hybrid video game setups, the virtual pinballs, right? And
Yeah, I get it in the true sense of homebrew. I'm just saying that, I mean, really, if you look at the most the reference model for it,
Mhm.
and if you've never read Scott's posts, maybe it's worthwhile to send this into chat because
Yeah, please.
he really shows you all of the hardware that he's used. I mean, obviously he created the software. That's the thing that you're really kind of adding to your point, your own color to it, your own flair. But I mean, if you look at what he's done, and maybe I'm breaking it down too simplistic a view, but that's my view of it. I mean, because if you're taking all the components from P3 and you're using those as your base, you're creating your own code. You can see everything else that he has used here. Um, I mean, it's cool. It's cool that he
I've
shared
actually,
all this with you, because if you want a reference to build your own homebrew, this is pretty much what he did.
I've actually thought that there maybe is like a small business where you get the templates and designs for some of the older, not even older, older than Attack from Mars, like your 70s machines, and have like a template and create, I don't know, like a Mary Hari pinball machine, or a Evil Knievel, or Bobby Orr, but you use, maybe they have the program for the rule set, but there's a kit that you can buy and you have to screw in the holes and blah blah blah. I think that'd be kind of like a fun project that people in the pinball world maybe gravitate. I don't know.
And yeah, the chat's not wrong about Denton Heat being a homebrew.
It's to some extent, it's a reskin at the very least.
Yes.
There's a lot of work that went into that.
It's a reskin, and also like they re-engineered the sound as well.
I didn't know that. That's
Mhm.
cool.
I have a friend who his rescan was making Moonwalking Dead, complete with Michael Jackson Thriller
Nice.
music.
Kind of like that. I'm
That's
not crazy
funny.
about the Walking Dead theme.
Austin, have you seen any interesting reskins?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few interesting reskins that people have done. And to the point of kind of code modification for sound, there's also a lot of good references for that. Like if anyone's ever heard of the Cleveland mods, they're typically released on Pinside, where they will go in and do a mod on the sounds, and even like a production machine. I kind of even consider that in the vein of a reskin, in that you're actually not changing the graphics or anything.
Mhm.
But I mean, even if you're doing like custom backglass work and stuff like that, I suppose you could even consider that a partial reskin. You do that with sound mods. You're kind of getting in that same vein, if you will. Unlike Denton Heat, which is really and truly kind of fully customized. I've seen a lot of partially customized things, is how I would characterize them.
Yeah. Yeah, they I don't know. It was such a huge asset to have someone like Josh Featherstone around to be able to do custom artwork, and James had like a lot of passion for that project as well. James being the tech out in Denton who did the bulk of the work on that machine.
I haven't even updated like music or sound to any of my games, but I think I need to take Metallica and just like put on some really, really bad songs on a Metallica machine. Things
Don't
like
you
Barbie
dare.
Girl.
Just polka.
You need to do
Maybe
that,
Weird
you
Al
need to invite
versions of
Ray.
songs.
You need to invite Ray over to play it.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I mean, that is if you care about your game being in one piece. Before I guess at the end of the day, all these talking about all these homebrew and code modifications and stuff like that. It reminds me of the sort of non-stop debate that goes on in the community group, where it's like having the real thing versus like MAME versions and cheap knockoffs and stuff like that. It's like I as somebody who really appreciates the real thing and who thinks there's just positively zero replication of a steel ball flying around a physical play field and whacking into stuff and getting trapped and hitting the glass and popping over the flipper and all. You just can't replicate that, and you might as well, again, I would rather buy the candy cab with mine would be Third Strike. I'd rather have that than one cabinet with 300 MAME games. It's just you just can't replicate the real thing.
Well, let me ask you, all on that line. I mean, would you like to have a candy cab, and instead of just having Third Strike in it, would you like to have maybe every CPS2, as well as maybe everything that was done in Neo Geo? I mean, have you ever ventured down that path with Darksoft? Because I mean, see, that's available too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
maybe, but with pinball, it's a physical medium. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's it's almost sort of a different conversation at that point, just because there's truly no way to replicate it via video.
so. Let me ask. This is kind of go back. I wanted to make sure that I got a good image of it. I didn't have it handy. Kind of talking about reskins. I'm going to put a link in the chat there. Have you ever seen probably the best reskin I've ever seen done? Maybe this will preface it by that is Pabst Blue Ribbon. Do y'all ever remember that one?
I do.
I've heard the
Yeah.
story, but I haven't seen it.
So I just put a link in chat. It's a Whoa Nelly
Mhm.
reskin, and so it's probably the best commercial, I think, a retheme that was mass produced that I've personally ever seen.
Well, it's honestly a better theme, anyways. Will Nelly.
Right. Well,
So
Nelly's
terrible.
infamously bad.
That's an improvement.
I'm actually, I'm playing video pinball right now, and we're talking about it, and yet I do feel the same way you do, Brennan, where it's just like the most like one flipper dead, a switch doesn't work, the table wasn't the best in the first place. EM machine, it doesn't matter. Like a real pinball table is always going to trump video pinball, in my opinion. This is just the weirdest of circumstances where there is none available.
Right.
So I'm
don't have a
slogging
choice.
through.
I had a friend that had a basement with, they might have had 10 machines, and then they had a video
Mhm.
pinball. And the video pinball was the game that no one ever played.
Right, and that
So
would be
even
the
though
way
they
I would
had-
treat it too.
And you would much rather play a pinball game that you absolutely hated to play
Mhm.
than play the video one.
Yeah, no, I would pick this. I would pick this thing up and throw it in the trash right now if I could just come over to any of you guys' house with pinball machines and just play whatever.
But when you don't have a choice, then
Mhm.
it's not a bad substitute. Like I said, this was a big part of me getting.
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the
No, I
scene and
like the creators of this game in particular, the Pinball
There's a lot of
Arcade.
love
Like I
put into it.
really need to like take my hat off to them of like lovingly creating this not pinball game.
This was painstaking for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, they didn't.
It's like a
fuss
good book about like the table, right? Like you read a book about Attack from Mars or whatever. Like they did that book right, and in this case, it's a video pinball game that is not pinball and shouldn't be confused with it, but still good.
about as good as it'll get right now.
hmm Unless you have Iron Man in your house, in which case, I'm glad we're able to
which
talk you into
case-
coming on the
Yeah.
show in between games of Iron Man.
Dragging me
How
over.
much are you playing that? How much are you guys playing pinball during all this?
And that probably varies for people who have one game like me. I go back and forth. Some days I won't turn it on at all, and other games I'll just play like a game or two, and other days I'll sit there for an hour and just I'm in just a mood. And I'm trying to beat the high score or whatever. So
Mhm.
it just kind of depends on the mood, but that's why I'm really gonna have Iron Man in particular because that's just tends to be how my pinball fix goes is like short bursts. Like I either like want to stand there for an hour and want to like beat it, like do as well as I can, or I just want to play one or two. And if I want to play one or two games, I don't want to play like a Simpsons or something where I'm going to stand there for. So it's like a quick fix for me. Usually, I'll play 2 or 3 games and try to get at least one good game out of it. And move on with my day and come back to it later if I feel like it. But yeah, usually.
Because I'm working from home, I'm finding myself playing pinball like 4 or 5 hours a day. Usually I try to I postpone that game, right? I'll probably load up and play a game at like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, go back and finish up my work, maybe play 1 or 2 games in the evening as well.
What table do you have?
So I have Metallica, I have Aerosmith, and I have Wizard of Oz.
Nice. Very cool.
Those are great tables.
Yes.
The Wizard of Oz, it is one of the early Jersey Jack Wizard of Oz tables, so I had all of the problems that people have had with Woz. I had so.
So
Like now,
did you have to go through and replace all the lights and everything, all of that?
oh yeah, I had a CPU blow.
Oh my.
Um, I replaced all the lights last summer, and
Oh, that's fun.
that was it. Ended up being it was a fun project to do. It was one of those that it was challenging, but at the end of the day, that was a good fun 20 hours that I spent
Yeah.
doing the lights on that.
Yeah, let's qualify that for everyone. He spent 20 hours doing that.
The
Yeah,
most
you were telling me about that. You're like, yeah, okay.
the most nerve-wrenching thing is where they say that, okay, take a drill bit and apply a piece of tape a quarter of the way down so you know when to stop drilling, and drill a hole a quarter inch as your pilot hole for your screws to screw in the new lights.
Oh God.
Wow.
Right, so that drilling into the wood on your pinball machine is the most nerve-wracking thing anybody could ever do.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. So I never pick on anyone when people talk about they've had this problem or that problem, or they want to pick on one manufacturer or another. They claim that one may take the easy road and retheme a lot. Until you've gone through all that and you know the pains that every manufacturer has, it's just like, yeah, they all have problems.
Yeah.
Is there a best in show? Like, is there one that stands above the rest in your subjective opinions?
I think it's very much akin to automobiles, right? I think if you're going to press the envelope, then you're looking to JJP. That's your Lamborghini, for lack of a better comparative analysis, and maybe Stern's a Toyota. I don't know, right?
Mhm.
But even within Toyota family, you got some higher end pins and some lower end pins, and that's the way that's the way they price them. They're not shy about it, and you can set a Pro right next to an LE on Stern, and I'll walk you through everything that's difference in quality. It's not anything that's truly hidden. I mean, it is what it is. And then you had all these others that are coming in, and they're based on P3 multimorphic. It's American pinball. It's spooky. I mean, they're great pins, but that's why I was saying they're almost they're almost like a home brew. And I'm not saying that in a demeaning way, because I'm looking forward to having a spooky, but it is. They're kind of just piecing things together. If you look at their assembly process, you look at everything else. So I may be oversimplifying it for the true definition of it, but it's kind of how I see it.
Gotcha. David, do you have
In
thoughts on it?
addressing the people in the chat talking about the rule set of Woz, the rule set on that game is so deep. I will never get that somewhere over the rainbow wizard mode. It's impossible to get unless you put the game on 5 balls and extra balls ad nauseum. But as far as like mechanics and problems, I haven't had any problems with my 2 Sterns.
That's my opinion on it. Is just as a side note, that example that you just gave of Wizard of Oz, of how you're never gonna get that mode. I'm like, oh, that's why I like quick games. I like quick, fast, like heavy speed games, like rip and loop, stuff like that, because I just don't want to stand an hour trying to get this wizard mode and then lose my ball at the last minute and just make me rage. Like, I don't want that.
I hear
But
that.
as an aside, back to the main point. I think Stern is just. I don't think there's a good chance pinball does not exist in the manner that it does today without Stern, and for that reason, they're I think keeping the industry afloat. Like I guess just imagine if you went into a free play and Stern didn't exist. Okay, it's just Spooky and JJP, so you have like 6 or 7 games, like 3 or 4 of which I would consider like good or well received, I guess, depending on who you talk to. So just in terms of quantity, reliability, I'm not talking about like innovation and they're like turning pinball on its head or anything like that, but just in terms of talking about putting out a game at a reasonable price, if you want to call pinball reasonable at all. Reliable. It tends to not just fall apart on you as quickly as the others. It just generally quality pinball machines. I think it's just stern, and I get a lot of people have gripes with them in terms of they're not all that creative, and they do a lot of just sort of reskins and change this or that and call it a new table or whatever, and that's all fine.
But the physical components generally travel from stern to stern, right? So their greatest weakness is their greatest positive, right?
They're easy to fix. They're
like where the JJP breaks a toy and you're just basically done.
Correct. You're waiting for that specific part for however long, and I just think they do it right.
Yeah, this is like all of this together is why I just even as I grow in how much I care about pinball, and it does get like better and better as I play more and more pinball. Man, the thought of actually owning a table, like bless you 3 for owning them and taking care of them and maintaining them. I just can't imagine doing it. I would not lose your phone number and ask to come over if replay
honestly,
wasn't a thing.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things is like fixing them, figuring them out.
Mm-hmm.
I had one not long ago. Came in, the opto wasn't working. At the end of the day, it's transmitting and receiving light. It's all it is. I mean, I know we've talked about them as though they're complex things. They're not. I've never taken an opto apart, and honestly, it's no different than long distance transmission systems of a telephone signal. They follow the exact same principles, whether it's 100 miles away or, in this case, 6 inches away, and you're breaking a light stream to trigger something. It's just as simple as that. And I mean, it was fun to go through that because you're carrying over, at least in my experience, you're carrying over kind of the basic troubleshooting skills. Whether it's a Mack truck or a pinball machine or long haul transmission system on network, it's the exact same thing in some cases.
What do you guys do? You guys have thoughts on the remakes? So what is it? Chicago Gaming Company? What?
Right.
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the quality there? Because it's not. I don't know. It's emulating the old table, so it's not the old table, but it's. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Because I did not play enough of the original tables. I was not into the original Medieval Madness because I did play it back in the day, but I don't see the difference with my naked eye unless it's on its non-classic mode.
You can tell the difference if you spend enough time with the original. If you are just in a barcade setting and you're just sort of a casual pinball player, you probably wouldn't tell any difference at all, which is a testament to the work they put in. But then again, if you are somebody who is really into pinball or plays pinball competitively or collects pinballs, you would probably notice within a game or two that it's not an original. It just something feels just, I don't know how to describe it. I've had this conversation with other people too. Just something feels just a little like off. I don't know. I don't know if it's the angle is a little bit off or, but something feels just a little bit different enough to where you can tell that it's not an original game without having to like look at it,
David, Austin, do you guys have thoughts on those?
I'm neutral. I mean, if it gets somebody a Attack from Mars or a Medieval Madness relatively new game for a lower price than what people were selling 15-year-old machines for, then I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, I agree with what Brennan said in that if you were to literally mark the two tables out, Attack from Mars released in '95, Medieval Madness originally released in '97. If you mark the tables out to where you could not tell the date, I think within a game or two, I would probably be able to tell you which is the '95, which is the '97, and which is the later releases of each, because they do feel slightly different, and it's exactly as Brendan characterized it. I only know that when I play a 95 edition AFM, it feels so buttery smooth, and I feel like the later release, even though I've got one, it's more angular in how the shots are. Everyone knows the angles on that game when you miss a shot are just brutal, and it
Yeah, you
feels
miss the
more
lock
so
shot,
on the
you're in
later one.
trouble. Big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way on Medieval Madness. I do like the way they did it, in the spirit of what they did. They improved some of the electronics. They improved some of the reliability, the mechanicals. They did all LEDs. There's a big write-up on it. I put the link in there if you've never seen it.
Yeah, the
But at the
LEDs look
same
good.
time, it just doesn't make it. It makes it feel a little bit different.
Yeah, it's
I found the ramp shots on an original Medieval Madness are different than in a remake. For some reason, you could get into a groove and you could just really link them all together.
Yeah,
on
the flow.
original versus the remake.
I agree. The flow on an original is so much better on both of them, I think.
it's a man. It's a lot to wrap my head around. Because with things like fighting games, like it's clear. Like one's the timing, and all the emulators don't do the timing justice, and that's it. With pinball, it's so much more fluid. Like even game to game, like you have tables deteriorate, and or just the angles are different, and so I don't totally know. I don't feel as firmly about it as I do about like classic arcade hardware, like video game arcade hardware, because pinball stuff breaks, and I don't know if Austin wants to like restore a classic whatever pinball and say, hey, I just took this right back up to the original, quality, then I bet you're not lying. I bet it's awesome. I bet it's the best it could possibly be. But all the variants I see in pinball, like I don't know where in my head to put all that.
I'll give you an example of something that you can improve upon and yet at the same time make it worse. And this is not to call out because I was watching the Rick and Morty episode earlier, but they announced it at the beginning of the stream, for those of you who may have been watching it at 6 Central, that Jack Danger, Dead Flip, he was streaming Rick and Morty, and he had the whole design team on. He modified the game. He took 4 screws out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Why? The leftmost shot to go up, I think it's the portal, and then the leftmost shot to go up the ramp, they were too rigid and unforgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know this for a fact because I've not torn down an AFM. I certainly haven't torn down one or the other, and certainly not both. But I bet if you were to tear down the remake and you were to tear down the original, you might see something along this line that makes it more angular. So what he did is he removed 2 screws from the Jack Danger Dead Flip. He removed 2 screws from that farthest most shot to the left and 2 screws from the ramp shot, so that when you hit that curve, the metal that's over there and bent is more forgiving. So you don't have to make it so dead on and either get rejected. You've got a little bit of give into it. They're actually going to implement that into the design of all the tables that are leaving the factory going forth, and they're going to put a service report out on it so that people can also modify the exact same screws that he pulled out. So that's just an example of what we're talking about. I mean, you can do something like that seems like, oh, you should have this here, and I'm going to really overbuild it. But by virtue of that, to your point, it's such a strange device, and it's a living device.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you change the angle, you move it from one area of the house to the other. The next thing you know, you've got a shot that's either much easier or much more difficult. I actually think that's one of the cool things about them.
Yeah, me too. Like the physical nature of pinball, I wouldn't be playing video pinball if it wasn't for my appeal to the physical nature of it. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like the physical nature of pinball drives me to play pinball, and now I have this yearning when I've had it taken away from me, and that's why I'm finding video game pinball. If it's just like we're comparing this to video games, I'm never even touching these because I don't have any kind of nostalgia to the machine or thoughts about what dead flips are or like how cool a soft catch is. I've started kind of nerding out about the juggling aspects in a machine as the flippers are of different strengths and dealing with like adverse situations where balls are careening off of each other and you've missed ramp shots, or like for example, we talked about Attack from Mars and that unforgiving lock shot that comes back. Like, you know, I kind of find myself obsessed with going for that shot just so that I have the challenge of nudging the machine just perfectly so that it comes back into play. It's man, these questions are probably never going to go away in pinball because just of the nature of pinball. I guess that's pinball. Did you guys have any thoughts towards what we might talk about next week since we're stuck without pinball again? You want to go over the Rick and Morty stuff next week? Did we already do a Rick and Morty episode?
Yeah, we did that.
We did a Rick and
Okay,
Morty.
okay.
I mean,
Last week.
well, isn't like, if I remember now, I'm going to throw this out there, Brendan. You got to let me know. Isn't Bride of Pinbot? Isn't that someone's favorite table?
Yeah, maybe she has a different name for it, but yeah, it's lovingly known as Mrs. Pinhead in our apartment.
Hey, that's all right.
That's
Let's do
Bride of
let's do
Pinbot.
Mrs. Pinbot.
yeah, we're Mrs. Pinhead is a favorite. Speaking of Pinball Arcade, that's something that I remember. There's probably a
I've got
month
it.
or two straight where Amber would wake up at like 8 o'clock and just play it over and over and over and over and over and over, trying to beat my high score on it. So yeah, I'm actually pretty fond of it.
Yeah, are you guys
I'm
down
down
with
with
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's meet back here in a week and talk Bride of Pinbot, and I'll throw up the Pinball Arcade version to give us some images in the background.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Right, Joe.
Coolio.
It's been fun.
Thank you
Y'all
so
stay
much.
safe. Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you, everybody. David, are we doing this Pinball League thing again whenever Free Play comes back?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
I will do everything in my power to support you. I
Yep.
love the Free Play Pinball League. How much? Well, I invested in all these cards. And it was,
I'm
Hey,
still
let
here
me-
to help with
I
it.
love them.
Collective.
I need to buy those cards from you.
collector's items. You'll see them on eBay soon.
All right.
I think those might be worth more than Beltran bucks. Just saying.
I don't know. Somebody paid $20 for one $5 Beltran buck. So
I bet David's gonna offer more. So
for Beltran bucks, I don't know.
no, no,
Like
no,
the
no,
we
no,
don't.
no,
I don't
for
want
the
to get
cards.
too much into a bidding war for Beltran bucks.
No, for the cards, not the Beltran bucks.
All right. I don't want to keep you guys any longer than I have. Unless you just want to stick around and goof around with us for the rest of the night. But I know you're are busy professionals, and thank you so much for joining me.
You bet.
No
Thanks,
problem,
Chris.
man.
Thanks. Take
Later,
care,
guys.
everyone.